Hey everyone, so I'm going to do my reflection today on the scriptures. Yesterday I invited you to see how Jesus is moved with love to heal. So he's passing by and he sees somebody sitting there who is in need of help, and he doesn't wait for this person to be asked. He just goes and he heals. And we see again this disbelief of people that this healing has occurred, because in the Old Testament, when you have disabilities, when you have poverty, when you have illness come against you, it's thought to be a punishment from God. And we see the fear of the parents of the boy who are saying, we know that he's been healed, but don't ask us how, because we don't know, we were not there. And this fear that they have of being ostracized and being kicked out of the temple. And then today we see the second sign of healing that Jesus is doing. And today sometimes people say, oh no, we don't look for signs. That's testing God. You don't ask for signs. But we do look for signs. And these are the signs that are given to us, where faith is what helps. Faith is what saves. Faith is what heals. And faith is what carries us through the difficulties. Because the Jewish people at that time were living under occupied territory. So for those of us who grew up in colonized countries, I mean Canada's colonized, but we were not born here, many of us, but who lived in Zimbabwe or lived in South Africa, we know what that fear is. That fear of doing something wrong and you'll be sent out of the church, or you'll be sent out of the community, or you'll be sent to live in a sanatorium because they don't want the stigma of having to deal with your issues and your problems. And that's something that has been done. I mean, people were taken and put into Ingucheni, or put into, here they take the women and they put us into Sunnybrook. So unless you have that pushback which comes, God's justice doesn't come into the world. So for today, you can reflect on the second sign of Jesus's healing and reflect on what that means. Because he doesn't, again, like in other stories, he doesn't go to the person and do the healing. He says, this will be done for you. Your faith has saved you. You can go. And at that moment, the healing takes place. And that's how our faith works too. We believe that God will act and God will move. And even the impossible becomes possible, because what's impossible for man is possible for God. And we see that in our lives. We see that in our communities. We see that in our churches. Because the church today is not what the church was 50 years ago. It was a bunch of old white men making all the decisions. And today, because people have pushed back, change has come. So women are a lot more involved in our own decision making, in what we will do. And the church can't force you to do things like in the old days. And you don't pay for a mass. You give an offering. But if you can't give that offering, the church will do it for you anyway. It's just nice if you make that offering, because it helps with the upkeep of the church as well. So these are signs that Jesus gives to us in the scriptures and in the way that life is played out, and that justice of God. So the things that we do in our campaigns with all these movements like Amnesty International and different organizations, where we write to our MPs, we write to our prime ministers, those things, part of it started in the church with women's movements, and then it went out and it became political. The same with the trade unions, because we look for ways that we can have God's justice come about in our communities and in our lives. And if you look at what's happening to Canada now, they're creating poverty. So they're not aiming for what Mandela and others of us have worked for. They're creating poverty. Why? Because the white population is falling and they're losing power. So before they hand over the country to the indigenous people, they want to ruin it. This is all planned out, because if you listen to what the Bank of Canada is saying, they're saying, oh, demographics are changing and structural changes are coming and we have to expect decades of pain. Why? In a country like Canada, why? Why are they aiming for more food banks and more pain and more poverty and more people being out of work and 50-cent increases after 2 years? Why? I mean, even if they do it, even if they carry it out for decades and they ruin everything, their own children are also going to live in this country. They're going to live here because many of them are also immigrant families. Yeah, they can go back to Scotland and Ireland and England and Wales, just like we can go back to Zimbabwe. But many of their families love this country. And they don't want to go back living under a king. They don't want that peasantry kind of life. So whatever they're doing, it's only going to hurt them and their children also in the long run. Because you can't have a society where there's no middle class. And you're creating a population of people where the majority are in low-paid jobs and low-paid income, and going at least 1 to 2 years without work. And then when you take them back in, you take them back in on minimum wage. It doesn't work because people are forming unions, companies are being fined, and it's going to backfire. The same way now France wants to go back into Africa because they want to produce cars there. Well, where were they when all the massacres were taking place in Rwanda? Where were they when Zimbabwe was cut off, when there were sanctions, or Rhodesia? Where were they? And this policy that they're having of Canada first and elbows up, it's not working because there's no competition. So prices are going to rise, things are becoming unaffordable, and they're saying, oh no, we're supporting Canadians, but you're not. Because if you don't have partners and your biggest partner, America, you're not interested in finding solutions, it's not going to work. Everybody's trading with America. Everybody's trading with China. Everybody's trading with Japan. And AI, you can't say, oh, we don't want AI. We're going to stop our children from using AI and going on social media. They'll find a way to do it, whether they're in school or whether they're somewhere else. I mean, it doesn't work. That kind of rigid authoritarian rule, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And Jesus challenged those kinds of rigid rules. That's what he did. He challenged it because it was designed to keep a specific power structure in place in the religious authorities, in the way that things were getting done. And that's why it was the religious authorities that said, no, there's something wrong with him, just like with me. It was the church that said, oh, you should consider taking this medication and the psychiatric treatment. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. And they're like, oh, but it might limit you from getting jobs in the college and teaching. And I said, I'm not doing it. Because I know I told the truth and I know I reported the truth. And if people don't want to confirm it or they can't remember what happened, that's not my problem. I'm not putting drugs in my body that I know I don't need and going and meeting with a psychiatrist because he's frightened, because he's saying, oh, these are executives. I said, I'm also an executive. I worked with them at the executive level. And he said, okay, then as long as you're sure you're going to be okay, you don't need that support from me. I said, no, I don't. So this is what is happening in our society today. This is what is happening, and people are pushing back. And why are they so frightened that the demographics are changing? There are many educated Indian women and men and people of non-white, people of non-black skin color who are more than capable of running companies. And Bharat Masrani did a good job at TD, but unfortunately, his plan to take the bank to the poor populations backfired because the people on the front lines were supporting all this drug culture and gift card scams and all of that. And people knew that it was happening, and when they reported it, just like what happened with me, it was LOL. Yeah, there. Just carry on and do your job. Don't say anything. That's exactly what happens in the banks until somebody dies or until something big happens, and then by then it's too late. So God's justice always breaks through. Unfortunately, the church doesn't learn. The Catholic Church, it doesn't learn. They supported apartheid. For them, that apartheid was good. It kept the white man on top, and it kept the rest of us away from what was good in life, from the private schools and the Catholic education system. Yeah, there were some missionary schools that accepted us, but by and large, we were separated and we were segregated and put into the worst paid jobs. You either had to work as a teacher, a secretary, or I don't know, there was one other thing you could do. And it's the same in Canada. And now, because people like me have done a good job as executive assistants, everybody wants those jobs. I don't know why they're saying there's a skill shortage in Canada. They're saying, we can't get enough admin assistants and executive assistants. So how come people like me are sitting at home? The same with call center work, customer service. They're saying there's a skill shortage. What skill shortage? The doctors are leaving England and they're coming here because they're so disgusted with how the systems have become in England. At the clinic I go to, most of the doctors are from England. They're coming here to Canada, and Canada is saying, we need to fast track our professionals. Yeah, but you also need to make sure that the standards are right. You need to make sure that they understand the British standards and the Canadian standards are different. So that's what's happening today. This country is being driven into the ground, and it's on purpose. They're doing it on purpose because they want to give the land back to the Aboriginal people now, the indigenous people. They're doing it on purpose. You can't tell me that they're not. How come since 2008 this has been going on? If you look at past posts on social media from 2017, they're the same things that they were saying then, they're saying now. So how come educated people like me can't get jobs in England or Ireland or Wales or Zimbabwe or South Africa? How come? It's all coordinated. It's all coordinated. And even when they call, these recruiters and things call, I hear them, there's somebody sitting on the other side and weeping. I don't know what they're weeping about, but I hope when I go back to work at Teleperformance, those calls will stop. Because it hurts our ears, not only me, but all the people working in the call center. You sitting and doing a job with headsets, and your call is going on 1 hour. That's too long. And somebody sitting and crying on the other side. Imagine that in your ear the whole time. I mean, our health and safety also matters. Our working conditions also matter. Our salaries also matter. It's not fair and it's not right to give us 50-cent increases after 2 years and the executives are earning millions. It's not. It's just not right. And Mark Carney, he should live on minimum wage. They've restructured how the government officials are being paid in South Africa and other places. They're not earning the billions. They're not earning the 100,000s. They're earning a basic income. All of the government officials in South Africa. That's what they should do here. Because here, the MPs and the Prime Minister and all of them, they travel, they spend millions on their travel, their hotels, and everything else, and meanwhile the country is imploding. If they want to be like a middle country, then they should also go on minimum wage, and I'm not joking about it. I'm not joking. They should have the basic cars, they should use the bicycle and ride to work like many of us have to do, or walk. Because it's not fair to us. And it's not just me that's saying it. The military are saying it, the army is saying it, the police is saying it. You look at all the other countries. The police in Italy, they have the best cars, they have Alfa Romeo cars. You look at how they look after their military, their essential care workers, the people who are on the front lines. They make sure that they earn well, that they get a decent income. Oh, not here. Here everything is, the executives are there and you must just do all the dirty work. It's not right. And even I've had interviews and they've liked me. They're saying, oh yeah, we'll get back to you. But then when the recruiters call me, they say, oh, they found somebody through their network. So, and the people who put me through my network, they're not getting me in. So this is the way this country is run. You say that, oh, there's nepotism in Africa and all that. The nepotism is worse here. It's insidious. There's nepotism here. It's not just me that's complaining. The police are complaining. The military are complaining. They're saying that when we retire, we don't have anything to live off. We don't even have housing. We don't have anything. So, and I mean, if they don't want me to work, if they're going to keep getting me out of my jobs, they should put through early retirement for me and give me a decent enough amount that I can go and live in South Africa. The houses that we have here, we have just as nice houses in South Africa. I can go there and set up like a place where executives can come and do retreats, or students. I can go and run something in South Africa. I mean, it doesn't make sense to keep me here, highly educated, highly skilled, highly qualified, and push me into poverty. It doesn't make sense. And that's what's happening to the Indian women in this country. They're bringing in the women from India on their student visas, and they're listening to them. They're listening to them. Even when Teleperformance let me go, I told Minnow, I don't think this thing is going to work, fanatics in South Africa. And she's like, why? I said to her, you don't know the South Africans. I live there. I know them. I have friends there. She's like, it's going to work. I said to her, how do you know? You came from India. You just came into this country and you telling them it's going to work. How do you know? She's like, it's going to work. I said to her, you don't know South Africa. Because I know South Africa. I know they don't take bullshit. And when you talk to these Americans on the phone, you have to eat humble pie. If whatever they say, the customer's always right. It's not like that in other countries. It's not like that in Zimbabwe. It's not like that in England. It's not like that in France, in Spain, in Europe. It's not like that. It's only here in North America that the customer's always right. And it didn't work. Because some of my colleagues who left, who got jobs at RBC and all these other places, they told me they moved the jobs to Philippines. They moved it. The South Africans don't take nonsense. They don't. And they know what happened to me on that one campaign. You think Cyril Ramaphosa and them don't keep tabs on what's happening to me? They do. The South African government keeps tabs on what's happening to me. So does Wits University. They know what's happening, and they're tired of Bono's bullshit. They're tired of it, and Ndidi. So what? All the black people must run the one campaign, and they must be in those positions where they get to travel and rub shoulders with all the political leaders and all of that. And those of us who did the work, we get pushed out of the organization because Bono's going around telling people that he loves me. Oh, please. Give me a break. Makes you want to vomit. It's rubbish. It's rubbish what they're doing, and the church should change their attitudes. The church should be the first one to push back and say, no, Belinda is not delusional, and we don't support her going and getting psychiatric care and going and taking drugs that she doesn't need. They should have been the first ones, but what did they do? They did what they did to Jesus. They said, oh no, this is something for the police to deal with. And then what happened to Jesus? He landed up being crucified. I was just fortunate and blessed that I had the healthcare professionals on my side. I was blessed. But this driving my life into the ground and driving me into poverty, it's not on. The church needs to re-examine what they're doing with my life and many of us who have been here a long time. I told her, this fanatics thing, South Africa's got a lot of problems, and it's people like me who push from here. What about the electricity? What about the setup? What about all that? Thankfully, they got all those things sorted out for them. They have backup generators. Whatever I can do here, I can go and do in South Africa. There are beautiful homes in South Africa. There are homes that have side entrances for your domestic workers to come in. They have domestic quarters. That's how we grew up. We had private homes for our domestics. They didn't have to go and live in the komushas. They lived on site in our properties. We gave them beds. We gave them electricity. They were treated very well. So why do they want to keep me here and push me into poverty? None of them are doing anything to help. None of them are doing anything to help Father Larry get me into a good paid job. The Sisters of St. Joseph are not helping. The Sisters of the Americas are not helping. No one's helping. It's not right. That's why I told Mnangagwa and Cyril Ramaphosa they should take me home. If I can live on a minimum basic income here, I can go and live on a basic minimum income there. They can provide the accommodation for me, a nice accommodation, and I can go. Because I'm tired of living like this. I don't deserve it. I don't deserve to be in Canada over 20 years and then be told we're giving you a 50-cent increase after 2 years. My mother was laughing at me. She thought it was a joke. I said to her, it's not a joke. I'm not joking. That's what they're giving us. I mean, people should be sitting and crying at what's happening to me, not sitting and laughing. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. Teleperformance got a new CEO now. So I hope that they're going to call me back to work. I'm not giving up on going back into my job. And why should I? I worked hard. I got the best scores for them. The same thing in the church with my retreat work, with being a spiritual director. I worked hard and I did well. So why should I give up and just accept that this is my lot in life and I'm never going to come up and I'm never going to get the support that I need and get the professional support I need and have doors open to me? Why should I accept it? Bono doesn't care what happens to me. How many times did I ask him to help me and my mom and the other volunteers? How many times did I write to them? How many times did I post on his wall? He adores Ndidi. Why do you think he took Ndidi to his Freedom Medal ceremony? Who else was there of us? Was any of us there? Was any of the volunteers from here in Canada at his talk that he did in New York? Was I there? He's talking rubbish, going around telling everybody he adores me and he loves me. It's rubbish. Love is proven in action and he damn well knows it. And that's Jesus' action today in the gospel. And it's the second sign. The first sign was the healing of the blind man, where he sends him to the pool and he heals him without him asking. This is the second sign, where Jesus just says the word and the healing takes place. This is the second sign. Our faith is not something airy-fairy in the air. We don't sell our house to buy a boat. We're not stupid. The church needs to wake up.